kind of cool when you
pretty
hear
neat.
testimonies of customers come back and you're like, hey, you guys had a huge impact on what we do to their business operation.
Sure.
We're in the background.
Yeah,
You know, people don't know about us. We kind of just sit in the background. We operate. But if things don't print and you know, goods don't go out, companies lose money.
That's pretty cool.
So that's why people pay us to do what we do.
Well, joining us today at the table is Greg Matthews, the Chief Operating Officer at LRS. Thanks for joining us today, Greg.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I've, heard a lot about your guys' podcast. Always wanting to have a chance to be here at the table. So it's glad to be here with you guys.
Well,
We just
appreciate
did Kim's
that you
staff,
did.
and she said she's never watched it. So
Oh,
we
my
were,
gosh.
we were
Well,
very
hey.
disappointed in that.
Yeah. She's got to be happy about your carpet signs back there.
Right,
Cleaning
exactly.
carpets.
Yeah,
Yes, for sure. And gave us good advice about cleaning floors.
that is
so-
true.
There you go.
Yes,
Perfect.
absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your professional story, your journey. I don't know how many years you've been at LRS, but I know it's been many. Talk a little bit about that and tell us something about the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at LRS now going on 24 years.
Man, wow.
Yeah, so at least if I do the math correctly, that's where it was.
And when
So-
you started 24 years ago, what did you do? Like, what was your entry level position?
So actually, I've actually been there since, I know, so whether it be 25 years. Okay. And I worked there a couple, 2 or 3 years as an intern.
Okay.
And then when I was going to college, and when I was in college studying business at the University of Missouri, and also getting a minor in computer science.
Okay.
So I knew I kind of wanted to go in the IT field.
Gotcha.
And obviously, working as an intern there gave me an introduction into what that really meant. So when I graduated, started full time as a sales rep.
Okay.
So given a territory, and that was actually in the very beginning. At the time, LRS did not have any really traveling salespeople.
Okay.
Everything was done over the phones, in house here in Springfield. You pick up the phone, dial, and as
that right?
and as an intern actually,
One location at that time?
we actually had remote offices in Europe.
Okay.
And then we had some offices here in the U.S., but not as many as we had today. At the time, it was just pick up the phone, dial.
That was that right around 2000? Or?
It was 2002.
Okay,
Exactly.
gotcha.
And so actually as an intern, I learned rejection pretty quickly because I was given the task of call 100 customers a day, ask if they'd heard about us, and about 80 of them would just hang up on me or not talk to me. And it's like, okay, this is going to be fun.
Right.
So
You
get
learned early
rejection.
on the worst thing to do is tell me no.
Exactly.
And maybe
that's right.
call me names.
Yeah,
and hang
exactly.
up on me.
Be upset at me, I don't care. So I've been rejected a lot of times in my life. So it happens all to the best of us.
That's awesome.
But no, so I graduated. We started working. We actually then decided to go out and start meeting our customers face to face because our competitors all had people in those cities and in those towns. So that was really my first job, was basically picking up, traveling, flying, going in and flying in, meet customers, talk about our software, try to convince them to buy our software, and then kind of just progressed from there. Moved into management role and started managing the sales reps, our technical guys, and then started managing one of our divisions. And then over time got responsibility for more divisions, and then got to where I am at today. So been chief operating officer here for the last 4 or 5 years, running the day-to-day operations of the company.
So how many locations do you guys have across the United States and then obviously internationally?
Yeah, so we have offices. So we have 19 total offices. Okay. I think we have 10 of them, if I do the math correctly, 10 of them here in the United States, and then 9 across the world. So our furthest one is in Sydney, Australia, probably the furthest one we have. Singapore, Australia. Actually, I think we're up to 20 now because I forgot. We just opened an office in Malaysia.
Wow.
So we just hired 6 people there to run a kind of a managed services desk for us. And then we go as far south as Costa Rica.
Wow.
And then we have spattering throughout Europe, about 5 or 6 different offices in Europe. So,
Yeah. Spread out a little bit. Do you still travel a ton?
My traveling is not as much today as it used to be. So my traveling today is mostly to offices. So I go around at least 3 times a year, try to do count reviews with our salespeople in the United States. I'll do once a year in Europe. And meet those folks as well. I do not travel to Asia Pacific.
Gotcha.
I got someone who manages both our European and our Asia Pacific operations.
Gotcha.
And so since those are smaller locations, he'll travel to Asia and do those for us.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What's your closest office to Springfield?
Closest one would be St. Louis.
Okay. And then in the States, the furthest away from here?
It would be, the first one would be in California. So we've got Anaheim, California, is our furthest one. Then Connecticut, we got an office. We got offices down in Dallas, Texas, Kansas City, St. Louis, Minneapolis, our offices in the U.S.
So on your product lines or service lines, if you will, tell us about that. Because we use you guys for our web support and some other, technology services that you provide. But what are your biggest lines of business or services that you provide?
Yeah, so that's good. It's a good question because we really have 5 different divisions that really kind of all IT focused, but really do independent things from each other. So we really run each one as almost like its own separate business, separate P&L, separate. You got to justify and make revenue income each year.
Sure.
And if it doesn't, then we kind of evaluate, is that something we want to stay in? Our biggest group is what we call our enterprise output management. So that's a mouthful. People are like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
And so what that basically is managing print environment for large enterprises.
Okay.
So it really starts back to the kind of how LRS got started. So if I kind of go back into
I was going to ask you to tell that story because I've heard it before.
Yeah, you've heard it.
Pretty cool.
So it started with Dick Levi, Roger Ray, and Bob Shoup.
Okay.
So the 3 of them were independent consultants working on their own and decided, hey, we kind of want to pool our resources and maybe we can hire additional employees to work on our behalf. So they joined forces. This is 1979. And about 6 months into that, Bob Shoup said, hey, his wife wanted to move to Denver, Colorado. I want to get out of here. So he was out of the business. He was gone and left. And so which left Dick and Roger as the only people in the business. And then about a year into that, Dick got a consulting job at Illinois Power here in town.
Okay.
And they said, hey, we have these large mainframes that we're running in our data center, and we can't print. We can only print to, back in the day, you can only print to what they call channel attached printers, which were printers originally or physically attached, big cables to the mainframe.
Gotcha.
So you'd print the job, and then you basically had to carry it around. You'd have someone that physically would push around on a cart, or if your people were in other offices, they would put them in trucks and ship them out.
Okay.
So they asked him, hey, can you come up with a way to be able to print from those mainframes to remote printers? And this is back before TCP/IP, the web, none of that existed.
Sure.
And there used to be an old technology called SNA technology. So Dick was the first person to come up with the ability to print from these mainframes to these printers around an office. Which was innovative at the time. So this is like 1980, 81. And obviously a lot of people are like, hey, this is pretty interesting. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so actually, he started talking to some people, and they said, hey, other companies would be interested in that. So we went back to Illinois Power, bought the rights back to the software, because he did it as a project for them.
Sure.
That they had asked him to. And so he bought the rights back. And he's like, I don't know how to sell this. So he hired an independent consultant, a sales consultant out of, I believe, Texas to sell it for him. And the guy started selling it. And again, the more customers started buying, and he's like, man, I think I better develop our own sales force.
Sure.
So that's kind of the end of how EOM Group got started.
Okay.
And today that thing's evolved to where, when TCP/IP and the World Wide Web came about, everybody, you all have printers at your house, right?
Sure.
Everyone's got a printer. Back then, everyone had a printer in their office. So then we were the first people to come up with being able to print to any printer, no matter where it was in the office.
Gotcha.
So again, it was mainframe data going to printers anywhere in an office. And then you think of companies like State Farm, for example, who used to have like 12 data centers around the whole U.S. Now they have down to like 4 data centers. But people started, as TCP/IP and everything started consolidating, data centers became fewer and fewer. But then our software enabled output to be able to go to all the offices, no matter where you were around the world.
Wow.
So that's how we kind of got on the
that's
map.
the foundation.
That's the
of
foundation. And then things have really kind of just spiraled from there, just being innovative from everyday print, and companies, you go, no longer does everybody have a printer. Bigger companies, everyone doesn't get a printer in their office anymore because it's too expensive, right? So you get these bigger, larger printers spread throughout the floors, the office floors. But now people are concerned about security and print jobs just sitting there. And so we, developed the ability to go up, swipe your security badge, like the badge that gets you into the building, swipe that, and that comes up with a list of your jobs, and then you select what print job comes out. So security's become big. The AI is now starting to become big in the world, and so that's really just how we've kind of evolved from starting in large mainframes to, printing to anywhere and anything.
And you guys do web design as well?
We do. So that's a small group that people here. Yeah, it is. It's really a small group for us. It's actually our smallest group, and it's really the thing that people here in Springfield or Central Illinois really know us for.
Okay.
Because that's where we work with the local businesses here in town
Gotcha.
to do websites for them, or also do their infrastructure and IT infrastructure for companies that don't have an IT staff.
Gotcha.
We can come in and help you manage your servers, your computers, your PCs, those type of things. But yeah, it's always funny because those are the ones we always hear the biggest complaints about, just because they're our local, it's our friends,
Right,
people
right.
we know.
You know.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right? But, people are like, man, that's what you guys do. And it's like, no, that's not even, it is what we do. And it is a great thing about our business, but
Very small.
very small.
Piece.
Yeah, exactly. it's whenever I do a company presentation with a PowerPoint, kind of show a slide of our customers, and people are amazed. You name it in the Fortune 1000 are customers, whether it's, Caterpillar, John Deere, State Farm. You think about Harley Davidson, Pfizer.
Sure.
It's actually interesting during COVID, Pfizer actually did a thing on us that basically all the COVID, whatever we call it, the vaccines and things that were going out, every label, everything that got printed in those boxes, shipped out, all was our software actually printing that stuff.
Is that right? Wow, that's pretty cool.
So it's kind of cool when you hear testimonies of
Yes.
customers come back and you're like, hey, you guys had a huge impact on what we do to their business operation.
Sure.
We're in the background.
Yeah,
right.
People don't know about us. We kind of just sit in the background. We operate. But if things don't print and goods don't go out, companies lose money.
That's pretty cool.
So that's why people pay us to do what we do.
That's awesome. Pretty cool. Yeah. Don't you have a division, if I remember, one of those presentations that I think you did and I was sitting in, where you developed software to manage some pension plans? Or,
we do. So we have a group called LRS Retirement Solutions, and so they develop software for the defined pension benefit divisions. So if you think about it, it's mostly state governments, municipalities, county governments, pension plans, people that have pensions, defined pension benefits.
Defined benefit plans,
And so, and those are all really pretty much every single one of those is custom projects. So typically, like we just finished the state of New Hampshire, just implemented our stuff for all their retirees. I think it was a 7-8 year project.
Wow.
Man, how long it takes from start to finish. And, some of them could be a year, 2 years, but large states take a lot longer to implement and get all that stuff.
Is that a big slice of the business, or?
It is probably, no, it's not. It's a decent amount. So our EOM group makes up about 60% of our business.
Oh, okay.
The retirement solutions groups makes up probably about, I'd say about 15% of the business. We also have a group that is consulting, which is how we started. So we do staff augmentation, is what we call staff augmentation. So people that need consultants to come in on a temporary basis to do whatever IT-related job, we'll staff the people, put them in there. And so as long as they're there, they're employees of ours. When that project ends, they're no longer employees of ours either. So then we cut them. So that our employee count, people always ask, what's your employee count?
Sure.
Which today we're just under 1,000. It's been as high as 1,100, but it really goes up and down because of that staff augmentation group. So it depends on how many consultants we have out on jobs.
Gotcha.
Depends on what our employee count is. But if that, like that business right now it is an industry wide, has been down about 25% in the last 2 years.
Really?
So our consultants are down 25%. The number of consultants we have.
What would be the reason behind that? What's your data tell you? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, just businesses aren't really investing in external consultants right now. They've really cut back, and it's interesting because a lot of times in recessions, that business will pick up because people don't want to have full-time employees with benefits and everything else. They want to be able to react quickly to the market.
Sure.
And so they'll bring in consultants because they can get rid of them tomorrow and they're not on the payroll.
Yeah, makes sense.
Versus it's a lot harder to get rid of people if they're on your payroll.
Sure.
But right now, we're not really in a recession. And so the last couple of years, businesses have tightened back on their spend, but they haven't gone to where the fact that they've gotten rid of a lot of their full-time staff and replacing them with consultants.
Gotcha.
So that's an industry wide. It's down about 25-30%, which is interesting.
Very interesting.
So how technology, I feel like, moves really fast, at least for companies like us, you know, and AI now that's coming out and we're just becoming somewhat educated a little bit, a tiny bit. Does that affect your business? Is it hard to keep up, or are you on the front end? I always say being first to something can be expensive. Right. How does that affect your business?
It does. So, so I'll say that in a couple different ways. So one, we try to stick in our niche, our lanes. We try not to get too far outside of what we've been really successful in doing, which is easy. It's hard to do and it's easy to do, right? When you're really successful, it's easy to stay in there.
Sure.
But also, too, it's hard not to start dabbling in all these other areas.
Right.
But I would say that the new technology always is what piques our customers' interest. So they're always asking, what are you guys doing in that space? And you ask them, what do you want to do in that space? They have no clue,
Right.
you know? So they're always constantly like, I don't know. What do you think we should do?
Yeah.
So like AI is one that, you know, we're continuing to play with right now to figure out how does that really fit in our core products and core expertise of what we do.
Sure.
But it's constantly, technology is constantly changing.
Right.
You know, you think about cloud computing, you know, has been a big buzzword in technology for the last, 10 years, where people have trying to move as much of their stuff to the so-called cloud.
Sure.
Now companies are realizing the cloud's not as cheap as what they thought, and sometimes it's more expensive. So now they're turning around and starting to bring stuff back in-house.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're starting to see a trend where people are starting to say, hey, we're spending more money than when we actually had it in-house.
In-house, gotcha.
Interesting. I had not heard that. But I mean, being the technology guy that I am, you would not be surprised by that.
Right. Yeah, that's about as technical as we're going to be able to get. Do you guys? So I know Central Illinois Security is that. I just
that's
had them
another
do some
division.
work at my house,
Yep.
and it
Hopefully
was
they did an
phenomenal.
all right job.
Oh, they did a phenomenal job.
Okay, good.
The communication, the service, the efficiency. I felt like
Great.
for what I got, the price was very competitive. I didn't shop it, of course, because we just do business with you guys. But are there other businesses like CIS that you have under the umbrella of LRS that maybe people didn't know about?
Yeah, so Central Illinois, so we run that's security, and we also do audio visual here in Central Illinois.
Oh, you do? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
people want to set up conference rooms and or home video type of stuff in their house to do electronic videoing and things like that. We do as well there. So it's something that's non-IT related that we do.
Sure.
And another group that we've got that's non-IT related is Diversified Yacht Services down in Florida.
Oh, that's
so,
right. I forgot about
doing
that.
the boat maintenance and mechanics on boats.
Yeah.
So, which is completely off the wall too from IT.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
How has that business been affected by the hurricane stuff down there?
We're finally back up and running.
Okay.
And getting things back on. I'd say it's like everything's for the most part fixed. Everything's operational. But 2-3 years ago when the first one hit, and then about a year ago it came in again. So but we've been fortunate to get back up and going. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's what we leave Ryan to do a lot. He manages that as well, so he stays more involved with that stuff on a day-to-day basis than I do.
Well, I follow that website. I mean, it's fascinating how they move those big boats around and the boats you guys work on down there. Unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and the lifts that they got down there bringing out the boats is crazy. Yeah.
Did you guys used to have a division or line of business that dealt with sports in some way?
Yeah.
Thought I remembered us having that conversation like 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah. In fact, actually, I remember in high school, it was back around when I was even in high school, because as a high school football player, we actually used it to analyze it was just getting going at the time, but it sold, it was software for, basically, we sold it to universities, colleges, to basketball, football. I think we had some lacrosse and some other sports that are off the wall ones, but main one was football, to basically analyze game film and break it down, tendencies. What do the other teams do? So your offense can sit there and digest the film.
Yeah,
that we shut that down probably almost about 10 years ago, because really the industry had kind of evolved to there was one player that really had come in, and a company called Huddle. Huddle was just starting to take off, and Huddle really kind of started to capture that, and everything was cloud based.
Yep.
So before teams used to exchange videotape, right? I mean, physically would exchange those things. Now I think everybody uploads stuff to the cloud.
To the cloud,
You can then push it down to all your players. All your players have iPads and things like that they're sitting back in their dorm rooms or whatever else. They get all their stuff on the
that's pretty
on the dorms. Back then it was not like that. You would go sit in the film rooms, and our stuff would be sitting back there. And someone's sitting there taking hours to analyze the film first before they can even push it out.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is Huddle still around?
It is.
Yeah, because we used it.
Yeah. And actually, the one of our competitors back at the time was forget the name, but it was actually EA Sports. It was actually
really?
In that, they had a group that was in that whole thing. But Huddle kind of cornered that market.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they kind of own that, I think.
They
still
do.
To this day,
I think
right?
they do as well. Yeah, as far as I know. But we've been out of it for about 10 years now.
Yeah, pretty cool. What are the biggest challenges you guys
probably,
face as you look out 5 years from now and 10 years from now?
Yeah.
What kinds of things are on your radar?
well, one right now is just getting good quality people, right? You know, I mean, we have, we always say our number one resource is our employees. You know, that's what really kind of makes or breaks our company. And we have great people, but we're always constantly looking to add more and more people. And that's the hardest thing right now is finding good quality people in the spaces we need. But
do you have an in-house recruiting group that they're looking for people all over the country?
Absolutely. And they're constantly, we got job postings, both for our internal as well as the consulting, and trying to find good quality candidates is probably the hardest thing. But I'd say probably 5-10 years out is really just the we talked about a little bit ago, the evolution of technology and where things are going.
Right.
With AI and all this new technology that's coming out. I mean, it's really kind of, I feel it's like a warp speed right now with how things are changing in that area, and really trying to figure out how, if people do their day-to-day work, how much AI is going to have an impact on it and really change.
Yeah.
So, I mean, have you guys used like ChatGPT or any of those things where you put a Copilot?
We're just doing the research now, but I think it's the place we need to be at on our website for sure, so that people at 10 o'clock at night sitting in their family room can, look, let's say they have a water job.
Yeah.
They get on our website and they can ask questions and they can figure out, okay, what's it going to cost me?
Yep.
What needs to look
like?
What's it all going to look like? Because right now they just call the main line, and then one of our guys that's on call, or ladies, they got to call them back. But we are looking at it right now.
Yeah.
But we need to be in that space.
Yeah. But it's just crazy what you can do. I mean, if you type in anything, like, sometimes I'll be like, someone asks for like a letter of recommendation. I'm like, I'll just see what this does. Type in, put in some things about the person. Boom, it spits out a whole paper for you.
Well, I had somebody ask me, my coffee, Allie said, hey, I know you love wine, Napa Valley. We're going to Napa for 4 days. Can you let me, what would you do?
Yeah.
So I used AI to say, hey, I'm going to Napa. I'm staying in Yountville. I want to go to Silver Oak.
Yep.
This is 2 restaurants I'd like to go, but plan out 4 days of activities, 3 tastings a day.
Yeah.
And it spit out the perfect itinerary based on, just like you said, very little information I gave it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
But that's what's just changing the way our life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So your son, you have a son.
I do. I got 2 sons.
But the one that's in college.
Yes. Yep. Quinn.
I understand he's pretty sharp.
He is pretty sharp.
He somebody that will be prepared to come into the company right away when he gets out of college?
I think so. He would like to, Cool. So Quinn is a junior at SMU right now.
Yep.
Studying computer science. So he's finishing up his junior year, and he's worked for us the last 3. He still works for. He joins calls with us.
Does he really?
I have him sit on every Friday. I've got a call with. I call them our special development team. So it's basically people I put on special projects that basically go figure the shit out. Basically.
Yeah.
I love it.
Quinn sits on that every Friday, even when he's at school, and he listens.
Does he love
what
it?
We go. Oh, he loves it.
That's
cool.
awesome.
That is awesome.
So this year, he's actually this summer. I shouldn't say this year. This summer, he is going to stay in Dallas, and he's going to work for a company down there, which I think will be great. It'll give him experience outside of LRS.
Sure. Yep.
And we'll see when he graduates if he comes back right away, or I know he definitely wants to come back. It's just a matter is it year one, or is it does he do something for a couple 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, that's great.
But, we always say Ryan. I say we're just trying to get it to when Quinn can take over and let us just step back a little bit, not to worry about as much.
That is good.
Yeah,
that is
let
good.
him worry about all the technology stuff we got to worry about in the future.
So you said that calls a special development team for special projects.
Yep.
Do you guys? I assume you do, but maybe it's a bad assumption. Do you keep a group of programmers on your staff at all times for that very kind of thing, tackling all these new
exactly.
Things that
So
come
I mean,
out?
all of our groups, each have developers that are specialized to that groups, whatever the products are that they're running, right, and developing. But with each of the groups really have, I would call special developer that really tackle, I would say, the more complex things, or the things I'll say go out and research first. AI is a good example. We're starting that now, right? Really trying to research how should we be utilizing AI in our software for our customers, or how would customers get benefit out of AI with our products?
Gotcha.
So that's what those teams are kind of, I call it on the kind of the front lines out there exploring, figuring that stuff out. And some things we're like, hey, that doesn't make sense for us to pursue. Other things are like, hey, this is great. Now we'll bring in our other core developers to kind of take it on, lift it up, and kind of take take it forward.
Gotcha. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
What's a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, great
for me,
question.
that is a good
Or
question.
is there a typical day?
I don't know. There is a typical day, exactly. So, a lot of times it's just trying to figure out the direction where we're going. So meeting with the groups, trying to make sure how their groups managing, moving forward with the products and revenue. And then just fighting off any fires that come in. So, luckily we have a really good management team in place, which is great. Each of our divisions have someone who's responsible solely for that division, and so they kind of head off. I'll say a lot of the day-to-day nuances of that group. So it's really kind of meeting with them on a regular basis, just trying to figure out how do I remove obstacles for them to be able to kind of clear the way so they can just chug forward.
Is Springfield your largest location?
Employee-wise, yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I think we've got close to about 320 employees based here in Springfield.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Well, so we have just 2 offices. Well, 3, but I mean,
where's your third one?
Well, the dry cleaning operation, and then our corporate office in Decatur, and then the one here.
Perfect.
But we found, or at least just with 3 locations, it was hard to maintain culture, the same culture at all 3 locations, right?
Yep.
And it was like us and them, and this and I. I mean, what's it like from the cultural? Because I'm sure Springfield has a culture.
Yep.
The Dick Levi culture that was passed on to whatever.
Yep.
But is it hard to maintain that culture throughout the United States and even internationally?
Yeah. So it is a little bit. So, obviously being based in Springfield, we got that, what I always say, the Midwestern mentality, which is, people are like, what's the Midwestern mentality? But there's something about the Midwestern mentality, versus, actually when I was talking about earlier, when I first became a sales rep, one of my regions I was covering was New York, and learned right away. And I had a guy that I was traveling with that actually lived in the East Coast, and he's like, I'm gonna get there, and I mean, people are cussing, they're screaming at you on the streets. Your customers be screaming and yelling. I'd walk out of there, I was freaked out, and the guy's like, hey, that's just how people. You just got to learn to. Be a direct with them. Like, that's not how we are in the Midwest. He's like, well, you're going to get run over if you don't learn how to do that on the East Coast. Like, so go back to the Midwestern mentality. We've instilled that through all of our offices, but it's unique when you deal with international people because all the different cultures are completely different.
Sure.
In an interesting story I tell people that kind of gets us across is when we bought a company in Germany about 4 or 5 years ago, I flew over to meet the owners of the company that we were buying it from, and then they were just starting to tell their employees. I remember sitting around the room with them talking about it, and they were kind of really freaked out because they had owners in the U.S. and they had owners in Germany. The U.S. is the one we were doing the deal with, but they were having to bring the owners. Germany guys basically had to come along. It's what the deal was. So I got to Germany, and they were just completely freaked out. And I'm like, what's wrong? I mean, we're nice people. We're Midwestern people, but you're like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
And they're like, all right, here's the deal. All of our employees here in Germany think American companies come in and they do one thing. They buy you, and they basically fire you the next day.
Right.
And they're like, that's what we read about in the news all the time. We're like, you don't even know anything about Midwestern people and our attitude. And after spending 2 hours, 3 hours with them that day, they're like, you guys really are nice people. We're like, I mean, why would we not be nice people?
Right. So it's building trust, right? Building trust.
It is building trust, and it takes a while to do that. But it is interesting, the cultures in international versus the U.S.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
It makes a challenge.
You mentioned buying that business or acquiring. When you start new offices or have started them around the country as well as around the globe, is there a percentage breakdown as to how many you guys go into a market and start it versus an acquisition?
Yeah, so it really depends on the group and what we do. So in the software world, obviously if we can develop the software, we're going to be better off in the long run, right? Yeah. It's going to be, ultimately it'll be a little bit cheaper, but you also have a long leg work to go because you got to get up to the competition. If there is, you talked about first to market and things like that, which is obviously key if you can be there. But typically you're someone else is already to the market, so you're trying to catch up. So going and buying something that has a established customer base and established software usually will help you jump ahead right away. The thing that we're a little unique with for companies our size in this industry, in the software industry, is we have a really diverse and spread out sales force, which is huge because smaller software companies don't have, and they rely upon third-party partners, resellers to resell their stuff, and you lose absolute control when you're doing that.
Sure.
So with us, we have, our sales force across the globe probably is around 150 to 180 when you take actual sales reps and the technical sales rep that work side by side with them. So that's pretty large for companies. So us developing or acquiring software that we can then put into those groups to go sell helps us push ahead pretty quickly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Compared to smaller companies.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Yeah, that is large. I mean, if you got 1,000 employees, 20%
of your employees are selling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, very interesting.
Yeah. So we got a lot going in that area.
So we always ask this question of folks when we do this.
And you're one of our younger guests. So.
Okay.
So you don't have that many years to look back. You're not old like me.
Yeah. God, you guys are
but if you could go, turn the clock back and give your, 25-year-old self some advice based on what you've learned over the last 25 years in your career,
Yep.
What 1 or 2 pieces of advice would you give your younger self?
Oh man, that's always hard, right?
It is.
Yeah, one thing is obviously enjoy life a little bit more. When you're younger and have fun. I kind of dove into the work space right away, and obviously having kids at a young age. So that kind of my outlook at 25 is a little bit different than probably 25-year-olds today. What they're doing, having fun. But really, to me, I would say, back then it was just balls to the wall, gun in regards to how can I make change in work and what can I do? And it'd be like, hey, back up life. Life really is too short. When you get to where I'm at, and I'm 45 now. So, obviously I'm not super old, but I still feel like, man, I'm, I don't have that many years left on work and stuff like that. Yeah, chill a little bit.
Enjoy the ride.
Right? Because you start to realize life really starts passing you up pretty quickly.
I would agree.
So that's what I would probably say is enjoy life a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. We hear that a lot.
We do.
Right? When we ask that question.
Because I think as you get to the point where we are, we're a little bit older than you, but I was the same way. I wanted more stuff. I wanted my kids to live a better life than I did, and that required working more hours and making more money. And then you look back 20 years and you're like, man, I was grinding that, and I didn't enjoy it along the way as much as I could have. So we do hear that a lot, and that is great advice.
Yeah, very good. And even when you hear that advice and know it's good advice, it's still difficult to do.
It's difficult to do.
Right? It's still when you like to go and do what you do, it's hard to pull back.
Yeah, and it is. That's my personality. Like I'm impatient. I don't like to wait. I don't like to just I do like to relax, have fun. But at the same time, it's like that's at work. I'm just like, I want results. Let's go.
It's around here. People probably get tired because both of us always say, well, if it's worth doing, do it right now.
Right now. Yeah.
And it's true, but it also
we just got to get that ingrained in Matt Wike.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working
right now.
Right now.
Yeah,
he can get that done today.
That's right. That's right. And the other thing, we didn't really talk about, but I want to thank you and the community, all the things you guys do behind the scenes, because it is a ton. And I just know that there are a lot of things you guys do that the community doesn't know about.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. And that really comes from Dick. Dick has always been the mentality to, he's always said, hey, Springfield's my home, and it's home for all of us. It's where we all were born and raised. And to be able to give back and have the ability to do that is we've been fortunate, and it's great to see a city like Springfield and be involved in all the various activities that go on. So.
Yeah, the impact you guys have had is huge, and I know you guys don't do it for notoriety.
No, we don't.
In fact, usually do it quietly. I know, and it always amazes me. And then we can wrap this up. I'm sure that Dick and those of you who are in leadership at LRS have had countless opportunities to locate elsewhere.
Yep.
That might be an easier place to operate from because of an international airport or what have you.
Yeah.
But that you guys have made the decision to stay here.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure Springfield's as grateful as they ought to be for your choice to do that.
Yeah. No, we like you said, we've enjoyed being here, and it's a great place to raise a family and be. And when you grow up here, it's kind of hard to leave. So, but we've enjoyed being in Springfield. So,
awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It's fun, guys.
Good stuff.
Thanks. Take care.